this computer. You're good, Lee.
All right. Welcome to today's DVMUG Zoom meeting on this January 6th of 2026. We'll be following a typical format of news followed by videos, miscellany, question and answers, and social hour. We'll start with this week's news. Two news items for this week. It seems that the our news sources were all on a holiday or were busy anticipating what might come next year. And I didn't think you were interested in knowing a bunch of guesses. So here were the two items I found. So they're both by Apple insider Wesley Hilliard. First one, Apple's long game will result in a safe, secure, and ethical artificial intelligence ecosystem. Despite recent headlines screaming that Apple is behind or caving in, Siri won't be powered by Gemini, ChatGPT, or anything other than safe and secure Apple Foundation models. Here's what's exactly happening behind the inflammatory headlines. First, that's the first item. Second item is really the basis for the first. Apple execs explain Apple's position in the AI race and how it isn't necessarily behind. Marketing head Greg Joswiak and software chief Craig Federici shared some familiar arguments about Apple's intelligence, Siri's place in it, and how they aren't technically in the same AI race. So the following are synopses of these items. I'm not going to be doing question and answer between them because they relate so closely, and I think you need to have them both in mind to do questions and answers. So I'll start with the first, which is a fairly detailed synopsis because the discussion, I think, will be benefit from that. Apple's long game will result in a safe, secure, and ethical AI ecosystem. It might be tempting to assume Apple has lost its way, chased off of all of its talent, and has been left scrambling for AI solutions, especially if you read the headlines. If you've been following Apple Insider, then you're more prepared for what is actually happening at Apple and what is coming in the spring with the Siri LLM large language model relaunch. The tech world and its investors went wild when artificial intelligence entered the scene. We were promised revolutionary technology that has only previously been dreamed of in sci-fi. Stuff capable of curing cancer or ending human civilization as we know it. In the years since, we've got a few useful tools, we've increased human productivity in select cases, and they puffed up part of the global economy at the expense of others on a series of increasingly complex lies told by tech companies. People profit on the bad news about Apple, good news for its competitors, and the company supposedly struggle to become relevant in the global tech AI grift. The reality is a story we've heard told and Apple Insider has written about many times before. Because of Apple's late entry into a saturated market and unwillingness to develop in public, the company is failing, scrambling, and unable to do anything on its own. It hasn't been true before, and it isn't now. It's not that Apple is behind in the AI race, or even that it's waiting to leap ahead at the right moment. As I suggested in a previous piece, it's that they're running a totally different race, one that brings powerful apps and systems to to Apple iPhone, while still giving users access to the tools they need by way of visual intelligence and integrations with ChatGPT, which they even prime you up to when you need it. Well, here's what Apple says. Apple execs explain Apple's position in the AI race and how it isn't necessarily behind. Again, this is by Wesley Hilliard from Apple Insider. Wall Street Journal's Joanna Stern sat down twice with Apple Senior Vice President of Software Engineering Craig Federici and Senior Vice President of Worldwide Marketing Greg Joswiak In both interviews, Federici explained that Apple had working versions of the contextual Siri powered by app intents, and in fact, what was shown was actually running. Stern pressed executives asking about the usefulness of Apple Intelligence and if Apple could keep up with the competition. Apple's response in summary was, Apple's strategy for AI differs from competitors, never intending to be a chatbot, instead focusing on integrating generative AI across its operating system to enhance features rather than creating a standalone chatbot. Apple believes this approach provides a more seamless and useful user experience. The two items are significantly related, the second being the source supporting the analysis presented in the first. Are they both a rationale for retreating from the Apple AI announcement in 2024, or are they simply clarifying Apple's intent all along? Macworld seems skeptical of such a claim, and that the Apple Insider's analysis or concurrence stating in yesterday's post, it's vital that Apple finally fulfills its promise of an AI-powered, contextually relevant Siri. So, do you have comments and questions? Well, no other opinions,
Have
huh?
so many comments, but I don't want to start a war here. But I mean, I follow the AI news pretty closely. I listen to the Hard Fork podcast, which is from the New York Times, which is really interesting and pretty fun too. The two guys on it are pretty entertaining. And there's no question that Apple has lost a lot of its talent in the AI area that they kind of, and so I'm not, yes, it's kind of true what they're talking about there, but it's also, we'll see. I mean, Siri needs to be much better. Siri is great for some basic tasks, like starting and stopping a podcast where you go back 30 seconds, louder, softer, call so and so, very basic stuff. But for more contextual stuff, it sucks. And if anything, maybe it's gotten worse over time. But maybe it'll get better. But in the meantime, we have these amazing chatbots that I know that some of the people here hate me talking about it and feel totally different about it. But my experience of interacting with the paid version of ChatGPT and Gemini 3, I'm right now subscribing to both at $20 a month, that they're amazing for so many different purposes. It's like quantum accelerator of things. It's like you can go and Google something and you'll get some links and some basic AI response. But if you take that same thing to the chatbot, you can launch a whole discussion that you can. It's all I can say is if you haven't really experimented with these things and really tried them for a bunch of different purposes, you really ought to, if for no other reason, just to kind of get the lay of the land. And I don't know, it's those things right there seemed very defensive to me. Um, and we'll see. I mean, I'm happy enough with the Apple ecosystem now, and I'm thrilled by those two large language model chatbots, which I access directly, not through AI, Apple Intelligence. Um, and yeah,
Well, that leads me to sort of wonder, were the experts let go because they were so too chatbot focused and less implementation focused?
no, I think they were wooed away by other companies or discouraged by the lack of Apple's direction. There's this huge talent war on where they're paying millions of dollars to the top people in AI engineering, amazingly enough. So,
Mhm. Well,
but time will tell. I mean,
Mhm.
but I'm finding the accuracy of these chatbots to be very high. I'm not experiencing a lot of hallucination, but it's like looking up a lot of things. If you're not doing primary research, and they're willing to accept corrections. Like, oh, I don't think you got that right. Oh, really? Let me take another look. Because the paid version of the chatbot goes out and they do research in real time when they're not, it's not about instant response. It's about let's see if we can get this right. And they're not always right, but it's been very helpful for health issues. It's been very helpful for tutoring in my college classes. It's been amazingly, I mean, I did some biographical research on my father with very few cues to begin over the course of maybe 4 hours. I made enormous progress and it was exhilarating, the experience. And I have a 70-page Word document, which is the transcript between me and Gemini over the course of several hours that I'm willing to share with anybody who wants to check it out. But it was an amazing experience. And that never would have happened of me on my own doing my own research. Um,
I have a news item I'd like to share.
Yes.
Today on Daring Fireball, which is a Mac-centric blog, I read it this morning. The article he links to is now buried down about 4 or 5 more entries, but it's called "It's Hard to Justify Tahoe Icons." And it's an essay written by uh, from UI critic Nikita Kro Prokopov. Um, and it's a really good read. He goes through the entire new Tahoe interface with the problem of putting icons in next to every single menu item. And this is a mess. It's probably the result of the guy who left, who was in charge of whatever design. Uh, Adam Dye. He left about a month ago. Um, and they were talking about this article on MacBreak Weekly this morning in depth. I really recommend reading it. I'll put a link to the article in chat. It's long, but he goes through with side-by-side comparisons of what good design should be and what a hot mess it currently is.
it's in the chat now.
Okay, great. Yeah, I highly
What
recommend people read it.
what's the main beef that you're talking about, Anne? That people don't like icons?
No, the icons in the menu bar. Take a look at the article. You'll see what I'm talking about. There's a plus sign next to new, an arrow next to open, a save icon. But he goes through and he examines them and finds all these inconsistencies. And then suggests how it could be more readable, etc. Andy Ihnatko on MacBook Weekly suggested maybe they're doing this to make room for the future of a touch display on the Mac, but really, a lot of people are squawking about it. It's a hot mess.
So you're talking about the menu bar, not the dock.
No, I'm talking about application menu bars like open file, save as, export as PDF. Just look at the article. It's in chat. Yeah, there you go. That's it.
This is what she's talking about right here. This exists on Tahoe. Every single pull-down menu has some kind of icon in front of it, whether it makes any sense or not, and it's not consistent about what these icons actually do. This is what it used to be. This is what they put now, a little tiny icon in front of every single thing. What does that mean? Is that the open recent icon? Who knows? How do you tell what these things are? And they're not consistent between apps, what the icons actually are and what they mean. That's
It's a hot mess. Anyway, I recommend you read this article. It's lengthy.
here's more. New way, old way. Things that are relevant, yes. Here, every single thing. Same here. New way, old way. Some icons to get your attention to the
Well, no,
important
that's
things.
a suggestion if you use
Yeah,
Tahoe.
whatever. I mean, it does. You look at Tahoe. That's the way it is. Here's the things that are inconsistent.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a very interesting read.
Yeah, it
in the
is.
chat.
Yeah, do a deep dive on it. It's worth a read.
So
All
is
right.
it possible in settings to turn off those icons?
No.
No,
Huh.
that was a suggestion from the discussion on Mac Week that they should have a turn off this stuff.
So it seems to me that Apple's drifting towards the old theory is that something is designed by someone who's never had to use one.
Right. Well, it may be shifting. Now, in fact, Gruber refers to it as a die job, like it's a bad thing. Now that die is left and the future is more hardware oriented, not as design oriented. We'll
Back in the
see.
day, when people were designing the original Mac, there was an actual volume document called the Mac User Interface Guidelines that developers were supposed to follow these certain criteria. And Apple doesn't even follow with that now. They don't follow along with their own original criteria for design for the interface.
Back in that day, I was in QA at Apple, and we meticulously went through third-party apps and reviewed them and sent them to the developer and said, we won't endorse this app as compatible if you don't make these changes.
Uh-huh.
Along those lines, there was a recent article on the next system update should be something analogous to Snow Leopard and use that philosophy rather than something new every year.
Back in the day when the developers used to come to DVMUG and show a new app, if they strayed too far from the guidelines, they would just beat them up. Terrible. One time somebody showed this interface that looked like an LCD display. And they just showed no mercy. Like that's the hardest thing to possibly read is an LCD display with LCD, like back in the day, the way they used to draw numbers where they'd only have, an 8 with the side things. You can use a 3 with like an 8 with the missing on the right side. It was like, that was terrible. I'll never forget that.
Very soon we'll have to have one of our Tuesday meetings on how to use Windows 11.
I gotta say though, I'm flipping through a few drop-down menus in Finder and in Safari and in Zoom, and I see a bunch of icons, but who cares? I mean, the words are there. I know what the words are.
I'm
Some
kind of with you.
Make sense, and some of them are hard to tell what they are, but it seems like.
Well, it looks to me like those icons are actually linked to what the action is going to be when you click that, or if there is a window that's open. I kind of agree with you, Kenji, this time.
No,
Who cares?
if you let go on the menu on the words or the icon, it doesn't make any difference. There's only one action. It's not something separate.
Yeah, but who cares?
So it's a little bit of eye candy, kind of like emoticons. Like half the time I see an emoticon in a text message, it's too small for me to really tell what it is. Is that a smiling face or a sad face? So, I mean, so this seems like it's kind of in that category of.
Or there's so many of them. How do you know what they're trying to indicate when they put an emoji in there?
For example, I'm looking at Safari right now under File, and I see the little icon with share. It's the icon that you find that says share. It's the same icon you use to click to share.
Yeah, but not all of them are like
And
that.
close tab is an X, and that's what you hit. Open location, Command O.
I think we ought to save this for later.
Yeah, you're probably right.
You
It's
can
a
read
10
the
minute-
article if you're interested.
Yeah, and I find it distracting. I mean, I know what it means. I mean, not it. I know what the command means, and I want the command. I don't want some gibberish on the side of the
But it's not.
command.
It's the very icon that does that action.
I agree we should move on. I just meant to point attention to the article as news. We can have
Thank you,
discussion
Ann.
later.
Well,
All right, thanks, Ann. Here we go. Moving on to the videos. This screen is just to remind you that this will be on the BBS after the meeting.
It's currently in the chat.
Uh-huh.
I put the
on
news and the
BBS,
video links are in the chat.
Uh-huh.
The PDF.
It'll be PDF in the on the BBS, so you can click on it. First video is by Ellen Sweeney, iOS Tips for Seniors. iPhone Security, how to get rid of fake virus alert warnings fast. In today's senior-friendly tutorial, Ellen from Ellen's Tips for iOS shows you exactly what to do when a scary pop-up appears saying your iPhone has a virus. These alerts look real, but they're 100% fake, and tapping them can put your personal information at risk.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Ellen's Tips for iOS. Today we're going to talk about something that might have popped up on your iPhone that can be downright alarming. A big red "Your iPhone is hacked" virus detective. It's a pop-up that looks like an official warning from Apple. I'm going to show you what's really going on, how to deal with it step by step, and how to prevent it in the future. Let's get started. First of all, if you see a message on your iPhone that says your iPhone has been infected with a virus or Apple security alert, you must call this number or click here. Know this, it is not from Apple. Apple never sends that kind of pop-up virus alert in the browser. These are scare pop-ups or scam alerts designed to trick you into doing something like clicking a link, calling a phone number, giving away personal info, installing something. It's a scam. You do not have anything to worry about unless you provided personal details. So please, if you're watching this and you've seen one of these pop-ups, don't panic. Don't tap anything and don't call any number listed in a message. I'll show you how to safely close it and clean things up. Let's take your iPhone and step through what to do when you get one of these messages. I don't have a real message to show you, but I've showed you what the alert looks like, and now I'm going to show you how to fix it. You don't want to tap on the alert itself. Don't tap on any pop-ups that appear like OK, Update Now, or Call Support. Sometimes these buttons are fake and will lead you into a phishing or malware trap. What we want to do is close the browser tab. So let me open up Safari, and we're going to pretend that this is the site where the pop-up appeared. We want to get rid of this tab, and to do that, I'm going to tap on the three dots in the lower right corner. Once I do, I'm going to select all tabs. All of your tabs that are opened at this time will show up, and we want to locate the tab where the alert appeared. So I'm just going to pretend that the alert appeared here, and I'm going to tap on the X to close that particular tab. So this stops the immediate visible alert. But there are a couple of things that we want to do next. So I'm going to tap on the check mark, and I'll come back into the Safari website that I have opened. Let's swipe out of Safari now. We've gotten rid of that tab, but there's a couple of other steps that we can take. I'm going to open the Settings app. I am going to scroll to the very bottom and tap on Apps. And now I'm going to locate the Safari app, tap on that, and we're going to scroll towards the bottom until we see an option for Clear History and Website Data. I'm going to tap on that, and now I can go ahead and tap Clear History. And once I do that, all of the tabs will be removed, and it removes any cookies or website data that may allow the pop-up to reappear. Now, there's a couple of extra toggles that we should have on. So in this same Safari settings area, we want to find fraudulent website warnings and toggle that switch on. We also want to locate block pop-ups and turn that on. These settings help prevent future pop-ups of this kind. You could also go ahead and restart your iPhone. A simple restart helps clear any lingering effects of the pop-ups. So once we've done this, that's it. After these steps, your iPhone should be back to normal and the fake alert should be gone. If you didn't tap anything and you only closed the tab, you're very likely fine. Now let's talk about how to spot these scam alerts and understand why they show up. Here are the red flags. The message claims your iPhone has viruses or been hacked and urges immediate action, click or call. It appears within a browser tab, Safari, or Google if you use Google, not as a system notification from Apple. It asks for payment, credit card info, Apple ID logon, or to call a support number. It uses fear tactics such as your SIM is corrupted, your data will be lost. Often you visited a website that allowed pop-ups or ads and maybe clicked a link that launched the bad page. It's basically scareware designed to trick you into paying or giving your info, so recognize it helps you respond calmly and correctly. Here are some prevention tips. Stick to trusted websites and apps. Avoid clicking free scan or free fix your iPhone ads. If you're browsing and a pop-up shows up, close the tab and clear your data, the steps we just did. Enable and keep on Safari settings, block pop-ups and fraudulent website warnings. Keep your iOS updated. The latest software versions are your friend. If you ever feel unsure, ask a trusted friend or family member or contact someone you know. Don't call the number on the pop-up. Consider only installing apps from the App Store. Avoid jailbreaking your phone, which most seniors won't do anyway. That keeps things secure. These steps help you enjoy your iPhone worry-free. All right, friends, that wraps up our video today on how to deal with fake virus or security alert pop-ups on your iPhone. Remember, Apple won't send scary virus detected pop-ups in Safari. It's a scam. Close the tab, clear your Safari data, enable the safety toggles, and update your iPhone. If you found today's walkthrough helpful, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share.
Well, any comments or questions?
Yes. When she was showing clear website data for her audience, she should have gone into more detail. She had the default of in the last hour. Her audience are going to be people who may have waited longer than just the last hour. They need to pay attention to the time period when clearing the cache.
Well,
I usually clear the cache completely, all.
mhm.
When you clear the entire cache, what effect does that have on your future browsing?
The effect on the browsing is I just have to be on top of not being so lazy that I've saved all those things, that I just know where to go in and change my settings back to what I need, because I want to clear out whatever might have happened. There's the possibility in malware that the timestamp of an action in the malware could post date back. And if you say clear something within the last hour, you might not clear what you need to clear. So clear it all. That's my point.
So would this method work exactly the same on Mac? Ellen only deals with iOS, but
No, it's pretty much the same. It's just, the procedure, the things. Usually when you get, this is actually more common on the Mac. You're on a page, it pops up, makes noise, you think you're frozen. You just quit your browser, restart the browser with the shift key down so it won't reload the page. And then start your browser up, quit it and start the browser up normally. If it goes back to your normal home page, you're usually fine.
But clear your cache.
I've never had to do that. It's always just quit the browser. Actually, sometimes you quit the browser and restart it, it's fine. But if it comes up again, then hold the shift key down or disable the extension that's reloading the page, and then restart normally, and it goes back to your original home page, and you're usually good to go. It's coming off the page you're on is where it's coming from. They don't install something on your device. It's the page you're loading. It's what's doing it.
They leave something in the cache.
Yeah, but if you don't go back to that page, it's whatever. It's more important to pay attention to what page you're on and how did you get there. Did you click on an email link, or did you go to Google and search for HP phone number, and then it comes up, there's a bunch of fake ones. You went to a fake page from a search or something. That last thing you clicked on to go to that that's what caused it to go to it's a bad page. Not your web browser or your computer that's infected, it's the website you went to. That's what the problem is.
I've seen that very rarely, but it's been a long time. But it seems to me that all I had to do was quit the browser and restart it, and it was fine.
Right, and if it doesn't, then sometimes they'll force it to go back to the same page, and it seems like your computer's stuck. You can't get out of it, but shift key down, start it up, won't go back to the same page, quit it, start normally, still go back to your original home page. If it does, that's all I usually tell. People used to call me on the phone all the time, and in 5 minutes it's done and it's fixed. It's like, don't click that link in that email that you got. Don't click on links from things you don't know where they came from. That's what usually happens.
If you don't
And the history will tell you where you came from.
Yeah, I've had pop-ups like that several times. Just restart the browser and it goes away.
Okay, let's go on.
Okay, let's go on. Second video is by a spokesperson. Learn about California. Now, this is a little bit off base if you think we're only talking about Apple devices and things here. However, I thought this was a pretty interesting stuff that some people might find interesting to hear about. How do you ensure personal security after a theft? Experiencing a theft can be incredibly unsettling, leaving you feeling vulnerable. This guide walks you through the essential steps to regain control and enhance your personal security in the aftermath, helping you move forward with confidence. Key actions to take after a theft. 1. Learn immediately steps to take, from reporting the incident to securing your personal information. 2. Discover strategies for enhancing your home and digital security to prevent future occurrences. 3. Understand how to deal with the emotional impact and rebuild your sense of safety. And 4. Get tips on monitoring your accounts and identifying identity for suspicious activity.
Experiencing a theft can leave anyone feeling deeply shaken and vulnerable, wondering how to ever feel safe again. It is a moment when your personal space and sense of security are suddenly violated, making it perfectly natural to seek clear steps for regaining control. Fortunately, there are very effective strategies you can implement right away to rebuild your security and peace of mind. After a theft, ensuring your personal security involves a three-pronged approach: immediately securing your financial accounts, protecting your identity, and enhancing the physical safety of your home or person. Taking these proactive steps quickly is critical to preventing further harm and restoring your sense of control. The urgency behind these actions stems from the fact that stolen physical items can often lead to digital and financial vulnerabilities. For example, a stolen wallet might contain not just cash, but also credit cards and identification that could be used for identity theft or unauthorized purchases. Similarly, a home invasion can expose personal documents or digital devices, opening doors to broader security risks beyond the immediate loss. To secure your finances, start by contacting your banks and credit card companies without delay to report the theft and cancel any compromised cards. It is important to also change passwords for all your online banking accounts, shopping sites, and email, especially if any device that stored these passwords was stolen. Consider setting up fraud alerts on your bank accounts for added protection, which will flag unusual activity. Protecting your identity involves a few key steps. First, place a fraud alert with one of the three major credit bureaus: Experian, Equifax, or TransUnion. This action will notify the other two. This alert makes it harder for thieves to open new accounts in your name. If a driver's license or passport was stolen, report it to the relevant government agency and apply for replacements, as these documents are crucial for identity verification. When it comes to enhancing your physical safety, especially after a home break-in, changing your locks is a top priority. This removes the possibility of the thieves having access to a copied key. If you have a home security system, ensure it is fully functional and consider upgrading it with modern features like motion sensors or video surveillance. Inform trusted neighbors about the incident and ask them to be extra vigilant, and always trust your instincts about unusual activity. An often overlooked but crucial step is regularly monitoring your credit reports, which you can do for free once a year from each of the three major bureaus. Additionally, be aware of phishing attempts that might follow a data breach or theft, as criminals often try to exploit the anxiety by impersonating official organizations to gain more information. Using a reputable password manager can also significantly boost your online security, creating strong, unique passwords for every account. By systematically addressing financial vulnerabilities, safeguarding your identity, and bolstering your physical environment, you are not just reacting to a negative event. You are actively taking powerful steps to regain your personal security and peace of mind, transforming a moment of vulnerability into an opportunity for empowerment and stronger protection moving forward.
Well, it's just a little review on what to do if you get compromised.
One of the things you can do is freeze your credit accounts before this happens. All three credit bureaus, you should freeze your account.
Mm-hmm.
Offer you free monthly reports. You belong to AAA. They have a free, I think might be with Experian, every month they send you a reminder, anything new on your account, anything you don't have to actively go do anything. They send you an email, review your report, went up and down, or nothing was found.
Okay, we'll move on to the third video by Brooke Tierney. Turn your Apple devices into one powerful system. This might be where some of that Apple concentration in AI comes into bearing. Unlock the full power of the Apple ecosystem. In this video, I'll show you the best Apple tips and tricks that can make your iPhone, iPad, Mac, Apple Watch, and AirPods work seamlessly together. From AirDrop and Universal Clipboard to Sidecar and Apple Watch, unlock for Mac. These ecosystem hacks will change the way you use your devices every day.
Apple products are great devices on their own, but they're even better together because of how seamlessly and easily they work together. Here are the best Apple ecosystem tips and tricks that you need to know. One of my favorite features is Personal Hotspot, which allows my iPad and my Mac to connect to my iPhone network if ever Wi-Fi is not available or if the Wi-Fi signal drops all of a sudden. So as long as my Apple devices are signed into the same Apple ID and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth are turned on, let's say my iPad, if it were to all of a sudden lose Wi-Fi connection, I can go into settings and go to Wi-Fi, and I should see my networks, Brook iPhone. So I can click and connect to Brook iPhone network, and then it's pulling the data from my phone, so I can still use my iPad. I can still search the web, check emails, whatever I'm doing that requires internet, I can still do it. It will be using the data from my phone. So just keep that in mind that it is going to start pulling your phone data, but in a pinch, it is a great option if I really need Wi-Fi on my Mac or my iPad, or if all of a sudden I lose connection and I want to keep working. If you've had an iPhone for a while, you probably have heard of AirDrop, and you know that you can use it to send photos and files or pretty much anything to someone else with an iPhone or an Apple device. But the way I use AirDrop daily is actually between my own devices. So if I wanted to AirDrop photos from my iPhone to my Mac, it's really easy to do. I would just go into Photos on my iPhone and select the photos that I want to AirDrop, press the share button in the bottom left, and then you'll sometimes get a quick AirDrop button of one of your devices. So like conveniently today, the quick device is my Mac, so it is correct, but if it's not, you do have an AirDrop button below that you can click, and any of your devices that are logged in to the same Apple ID with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth turned on should appear here, and you can select the appropriate device this way. So I would just select my MacBook, and pretty quickly you'll see it's arrived already on my MacBook, and it opens in my downloads folder once it's fully downloaded. So this is a great option if I'm taking a lot of photos or even videos that just take quite a while to upload to iCloud. If I don't want to wait, I'll just AirDrop them between my devices this quickly. This next one is automatic AirPods switching, and people either love it or hate it. I love it, but I will also show you how to turn it off in case you're someone who hates it. So let's say I'm listening to music on my iPad with my headphones, and you can see I'm connected here at the bottom, but all of a sudden I get the sudden urge that I want to watch a YouTube video on my Mac. So I can pull up the YouTube video and I'm still listening to music. Once I press play on the Mac, you'll see it says connected to AirPods Pro, and it also said it, if I redo this, it also says AirPods Pro move to Mac on the top of the iPad. So whenever I press play, the AirPods automatically switch to that device. It's awesome. But as I mentioned, if you are someone that finds this feature really annoying, you can turn it off in settings on your individual devices. So if I want to turn it off on my iPad, I would just go into settings and Bluetooth, and then find my AirPod Pro 2s and click the little eye on the right, and then I would just scroll down until I see connect to this iPad. I have it on automatically. If to turn it off, you would just switch it to when last connected to this iPad, and then you could do the same thing on each of your individual devices. The Find My app is great for knowing where your devices are at any time, but you can also turn on notifications so that you're notified if ever you leave one behind. So I would just make sure I'm on the Devices tab at the bottom, and then I would see a list of all my devices. And if I were to select my iPad Pro, Towards the bottom, you'll see notify when left behind. You would just click in to toggle that on. And you can also set an exception in case you don't want to be notified when, let's say, you leave home, but you do want to be notified if you're away on vacation. If you have an Apple Watch, you can use your phone to ping your watch if you're looking for it. So on my iPhone, I would go into my control center and I have the icon here. The little watch icon is what you're looking for. And then I would just press on that and it'll make a noise on my watch so I can find it. But you can do the opposite as well. So I can also use my watch to find my phone. So on my watch, if I press the button on the side, it'll open the control center and then you'll see the icon with the phone. When I click on that, it'll make a noise on my phone so I can find the phone. Another option is if you long press on that same icon, it'll also light up the flashlight on your phone to make it even easier to find. So if I long press on it, you'll see the flashlight goes off as well. I can also use my Apple Watch to quickly unlock my Mac instead of having to use my password or Touch ID. So when I wake up my Mac, it quickly says unlocking with Apple Watch. And then on my Apple Watch, it'll also say that it unlocked my MacBook Pro. And this is a feature you would turn on in the settings on your Mac. So you would just go into settings and down to Touch ID and password. And at the very bottom, you'll see an Apple Watch section and just make sure Apple Watch is toggled on. And of course I have to mention iCloud because it's so convenient that it syncs all of my content across all my devices in real time. So if I were to check off a reminder on my iPhone, you'll see it almost immediately updates it on my Mac as well. So to make sure your apps are syncing the way you want them to sync, you would just go into settings on your devices and click on your name and profile picture at the top. You'll then see iCloud, click on that, and you can go down to saved to iCloud, click see all if you're on a Mac, and then just make sure all the ones you want turned on and the ones you want to sync are indeed turned on and toggled on. And then you would just hit done. And then I would just recommend you do the same on all of your individual devices to make sure the sync is set up the same way. One of the apps that will sync over iCloud is Messages. So any of your iMessages that you get on your phone, you'll also be able to see on your iPad and Mac as well, as long as you've turned it on in iCloud. But what will not sync by default is any of the text messages. So any of the green bubble messages you receive will only go to your phone. There is an easy way to turn on text message forwarding to your other Apple devices, but it needs to be turned on in settings on your iPhone. So if I go into settings
Frozen.
and click into that, and then you would just make sure that all of your other Apple devices have this text message forwarding turned on. Another great feature is handoff, which allows you to start something on one device and pick it up or hand it off to another device to continue working on it. So let's say I start taking a note on my phone, but then I want to actually sit down at my desk to use my Mac and continue where I left off. So if I go over to the dock on my Mac, the very right, I'll see the Notes app with a little iPhone icon in the top right, and it'll also tell me from iPhone 16 Pro Max. So if I click on this note, it brings me directly into the same note I just started on my iPhone. But if I wanted to do the reverse, if I wanted to hand something off from my Mac to either my iPhone or my iPad, it's a little bit different. So here I have a Safari tab open on my Mac. To get it on my iPhone, I would go to the app switcher by just swiping up from the bottom of my screen. And then at the very bottom, it'll say Safari from MacBook Pro. I can just click on that and it'll bring me right in to the same web page. To get handoff to work, like most of the features I've shown today, your devices have to be connected to the same Apple ID, Wi-Fi has to be turned on, and Bluetooth has to be turned on. But you also need to turn on the handoff setting on your device. So in settings, you're going to go into general and then AirPlay and continuity. and you'll see handoff towards the middle. Just make sure that's toggled on and do the same on each of your individual devices as well. So now that we've made sure handoff is turned on all of our devices, we can also start using the universal clipboard feature, which allows us to copy something on one device and paste it on another. So for example, on my iPhone, if I go into Photos and I copy this photo, I can now paste it on my MacBook. And I could paste it anywhere, in Messages, in an email, or like I'm about to do in Apple Notes. And I can use the right click and paste to do this, but Universal Clipboard also supports gestures and keyboard shortcuts. So instead, I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut Command V to paste, and it's pasted the photo right in my notes. And this feature is not exclusive to photos only. You can also copy and paste text as well as files between any of your devices. The next great feature that works with handoff turned on is the Sidecar feature, which allows me to use my iPad as a second monitor or a second screen for my Mac. So on my Mac, if I go up to the Control Center and select the Displays button, I'll be able to mirror or extend my Mac to my iPad Pro. And right now it's in mirroring mode, so whatever is on my Mac screen is now also on my iPad screen. And I do find this could be useful when I want to use my Apple Pencil. So if I wanted to mark up this photo now, I can't do that on my Mac because the Apple Pencil is not compatible with the Mac, but using this Sidecar feature, I can. So if on my iPad, I click this little arrow on the photo and select Markup, and you'll notice the same thing is happening on both screens. I can then use my Apple Pencil and draw on this photo and see the live drawings appear on my Mac as well. So if you are someone that draws or uses the Apple Pencil a lot, this could be a really great option for you because you can see what you're doing on two screens, and often your Mac is a bigger screen, so you can see even more detail. The other option is to extend your display. So if I click on the display button here in my menu bar, and switch from mirror to use as extended display. Now these are going to operate differently. So I can take my Safari window, let's say, and drag it onto my iPad. Another way I can do that is to go to the green dot at the top and say, move to Brook iPad. And then that window will immediately go over to my iPad. And so this is great because it allows me to use my iPad, let's say, to read an article or research something, and then use my Mac with my Mac keyboard to take notes at the exact same time, but on different screens. If you want to know even more about this Sidecar feature and what's possible, you should watch this video next, which is a complete Sidecar tutorial. So that's it. Have a great day. Bye.
Well, comments or questions?
We have a link to that Sidecar tutorial that she mentions at the end.
Yes. It's coming up.
Okay. Are we going to play it next?
Hotspot, one of the things you mentioned is something I certainly use. At this facility I'm at, I have had instances of the internet going out, but I've been able to keep going with my hotspot to my iPhone. The other thought I had on that is that if you're in a public place, rather than tying into their free Wi-Fi, I feel more secure using my hotspot to my phone. The other thing that I found very useful was one time I was on a 7-mile bicycle ride at night, and when I got home, I didn't have my iPhone. And using Find My, I found my iPhone laying in the middle of the street about 8 blocks away from my house. It worked great. So some of these features can be very handy. Anything else?
she could have thrown in iPhone mirroring while she was talking about all that. And there's issues between Sidecar and iPhone mirroring that don't work. So not every way she was talking about switching back and forth is consistent. I find exceptions to some of it. But I have been using my iPad as an extended way to use the Apple Pencil when I'm in the app I use these days for drawing. It's called Acorn. And I can have the menu on the iPad fully as if I'm on the Mac. And when I save things, it's saving it to the Mac, which has actually been very nice.
So you get touchscreen access to Mac apps, is that right?
Yeah, because the Mac menus are all there on my iPad because it's an extended display of the Mac. They have some controls down the left-hand column to turn the Sidecar feature on and off. So
yeah, I was wondering whether it works on a regular iPad as opposed to an iPad Pro, and it does. So I have two displays on my Mac. So I just turned it on the way she described, and this is now a third display.
Right. I actually had my iPad as a third screen because I had an older monitor, which was an old TV set, which I just recycled, but I had all three of those going. And when I tried to turn on iPhone mirroring, because I didn't have my phone near me, it told me when Sidecar's on, I can't do iPhone mirroring. And the two are different devices altogether, but Apple doesn't have the stuff set up to be able to do iPhone mirroring while you're sidecarring.
So I see that
I'm using a 10th generation iPad. So you don't need an iPad Pro to do this stuff.
No, I have a ninth generation and it works.
Right.
So I see that it automatically puts it to the left, but if you open up displays and control panel, you can reposition it.
Yeah, I have top and bottom. It's the way I do mine.
Cool.
Okay, we'll move on to the next one. Fourth video by Gary Rosenzweig. Learn how to right-click on a Mac in 1 minute.
Hi, this is Gary with MacMost.com. Let me show you how to right-click on a Mac. Now, right-click on a Mac is actually called secondary click. If you go to System Settings and then look for your pointing device on the left, you can then look for secondary click and you can set how to access it. The default is click or tap with 2 fingers on the trackpad. Likewise, with a mouse, secondary click is set to either the right side or the left side. So with the default on a trackpad, you would click with 2 fingers instead of 1. And on an Apple mouse, you would click at the very right side of the mouse near the top. Now, when you do that, it brings up the context menu. Like, for instance, here I am in the Finder, and if I were to 2-finger click here on this image, you could see I have the context menu showing all the different things I can do with this object. So here on Pages, if I select some text, and then I use 2 fingers on my trackpad to click, it brings up the context menu. And here in Safari, I'm going to demonstrate another way to right-click. And that is to use a regular single click on either a mouse or a trackpad, but hold the Control key down on your keyboard, not the Command key, but the Control key. This will also bring up the context menu. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. If you find these videos valuable, consider supporting MacMost.
Fifth video is by Brooke Tierney, and it's that detail on how to do that monitoring with the MacBook and the Sidecar tutorial. Here's how to use the iPad as a second monitor for your Mac, both wired and wirelessly. What you need to know about the Apple Sidecar feature so you can boost your productivity by using your iPad as an extended display or a mirrored display of your Mac.
Using your iPad as a second display for your Mac is incredibly easy with Apple's Sidecar feature. And just so we're all on the same page here, I'm not talking about this kind of sidecar or even this kind of sidecar. Instead, I'm talking about this, where you can actually use your iPad screen and your Mac screen side by side and at the same time as part of your workflow. So let me show you how easy Sidecar is to use both wirelessly or with your regular charging cable. So the first thing to do is to make sure your devices are compatible with the Sidecar feature. Here's a list of all the Macs and all the iPad models that are compatible with this feature. Both devices also have to be signed in to the same Apple ID, but you probably only have one Apple ID anyways, so you should be good to go. And they have to be within 10 meters or 30 feet of each other for Sidecar to work wirelessly. Then you also have to make sure that both of the devices have Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and handoff turned on. So to make sure handoff is turned on, you can just go into the system settings and search for handoff. And then you just want to make sure that at the top, allow handoff between this Mac is toggled on. On your iPad, go into system settings, into general, AirPlay and continuity, and then you'll see handoff towards the middle. Make sure it's toggled on there as well. Now to use Sidecar with a wire, it's really just as easy as using your charging cable, preferably the one that came with one of your Apple devices, and just plugging in your iPad into your Mac. And the first time you do this, it will ask you to allow the accessory. You would just press allow, and then both of your devices would be connected. And one benefit of using a wired connection for Sidecar is that it will allow pass-through charging. So your Mac will be able to charge your iPad since they're connected. But if you prefer to use Sidecar wirelessly, it's also incredibly easy to set up, and you even have a few different options to initiate it. So the first way is to go into your control center at the top on your Mac, and press on the screen mirroring button. And then you should see a list of your iPad and even any Apple TVs, any basically of your devices that can be used to mirror your screen or extend your display. So in this case, I'm going to use my iPad Pro, and then it'll give you the option. If I rather use this as a mirrored display, which means both my Mac screen and my iPad screen would be identical and be showing the exact same thing, or use as an extended display, which means I can have different windows or different apps on either screen. And so you can see right now, I have this set up as an extended display. So what I'm seeing on my Mac, I do not see on my iPad. And then you'll also see the option to hide the sidebar or the touch bar. So on the iPad, the sidebar is here on the left, and it just gives you some added controls. So you can tap to show the keyboard if you want that. You have an undo button. You can use the same Command, Shift, Control, Option keys as you would on your Mac keyboard. If I wanted the dock from my Mac to be on the iPad screen, I could press this button to send it back and forth. And then this top one would be the menu bar. So I can see right now I have my Mac menu bar at the top on my iPad. When I'm in full screen, I can use this button to bring that up or down. Then there's also at the very bottom of the iPad screen, the touch bar. So some apps will utilize a touch bar, even if my Mac does not have a touch bar. The iPad screen would, and it just gives you a bit more functionality. So there's some buttons you can press. So if you're working in an app and you want to utilize these controls, you can show them. Otherwise, if I select hide sidebar and hide touch bar, whatever app I'm putting on this screen or whatever window I'm moving to my iPad screen would be using the full real estate essentially. And then it's really easy to just drag whatever window you rather on your iPad screen, just drag it over to your iPad. Now, if your mouse doesn't go really quickly or intuitively from your Mac to your iPad like that, you would just head over into System Settings and go down to Displays, hit Arrange, and then you can just make sure that they are set up in the proper orientation. So my iPad's on the left, my Mac's on the right, but I can easily click and drag if I wanted to move that around. And then the mouse will move within this orientation I've set up. And to turn off Sidecar, it's really easy to just come back into the control center and click on your iPad Pro for things to go back to normal. So turning Sidecar on and off from the control center is the first way of doing it, but you can also do this from this displays tab in system preferences or system settings. So you should see from on this display window, you'll see a plus button. And when you click on the plus button, you should get that same list with your iPad and even your Apple TV. And so I can just click on iPad Pro to enter into Sidecar way. But the third way, and the way that I actually find is easiest, is when you have an app that or a window that you want to send over to your iPad screen, you can just go over to the green button from the top left and just hover your cursor on it, and you should see an option move to iPad Pro, and it'll go right over to the iPad. So you don't have to go into your settings and mess anything around unless you do need to rearrange the displays or something, but just using the green to send it over to your iPad is the fastest way to do it, in my opinion. And it works in reverse as well. So if I go back to the green dot on the iPad now, I'll see an option to move the window back to my Mac. So that can be a lot easier instead of dragging and rearranging windows if you just know you want to move it over to your iPad quickly. So that's how to use the extended display option. I find this option is really useful if maybe I'm researching something and I want to use Safari on my iPad, but then I'm taking notes on my Mac, or if I want to have my iPad as like a dedicated screen for my calendar or email, something like that. The other option though is to mirror your display. So if I go up to my control center and this time say mirror built-in display, the screen that's on my Mac will show up exactly the same way on my iPad. I find this option can be really useful if I want to see how something looks on both devices, on a smaller screen and a bigger screen, or even when I'm editing photos, I prefer to do that on my iPad because I like using the Apple Pencil to kind of fine-tune some of the sliders, and then I can see in higher resolution or on a bigger screen the live edits on my Mac. A few other really useful things to know, regardless of whether you're extending the display or mirroring the displays, is that your iPad gestures will still work. So if I wanted to scroll on my iPad, I could do that. If I wanted to pinch in and pinch out, use the gestures for copy pasting, like any of that will still be applicable, even though I could also use the trackpad on my Mac and bring my mouse over to my iPad. So your native gestures on your iPad still work. The other thing is I can also quickly access my iPad apps. So if I'm looking at photos, but all of a sudden I want to get into the YouTube app, I can just go into the YouTube app on my iPad the way I normally would. And if I want to get back into my extended display or my screen mirroring, I'll just see it as a continuity app that I can press to get right back in. And of course, another great thing is the ability to use my Apple Pencil to draw or sign a document, mark things up as I normally would on my iPad, regardless of whether I'm in the mirroring display or the extended display. So if I did need to sign a contract, I could do that really easily, or even mark up a photo using my Apple Pencil. If I just wrote on it the way I usually would, it'll show up live on my Mac. So having the option of using your iPad as an extra display for your Mac is incredibly easy to do and incredibly useful, whether you're at home and need a second or even a third display at your desk, or maybe even more useful when you're traveling and you're used to having a bigger screen, but you don't. You can use your iPad to give yourself more real estate and more screen to work with on the go. It doesn't limit any functionality. If anything, it enhances the experience and even adds functionality because I can indirectly use my Apple Pencil on my Mac. So I truly believe Sidecar is one of the most underrated features of the Apple ecosystem. Let me know if you liked today's video by giving it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. And that's it. Have a great day. Bye.
Well, any comments or questions, or did you handle them all on the first video?
That's a pleasant person.
She would be good to get to do one of our meetings for us.
Yeah, that would be great.
She's relaxed, easygoing, pleasant.
She talks a little fast.
Okay, we'll go on to Gary. Sixth video is Gary Rosenzweig, urgent reminders with alarms on iPhone. A new feature in iOS 26.2 helps you to never miss an important reminder. You can set the time-based reminder to urgent, and instead of a regular notification, you get an alarm that you need to respond to.
Hi, this is Gary with MacMost.com. Let me show you how you can set an alarm in the Reminders app. So there's a new feature in the Reminders app on the iPhone that's going to make a lot of people really happy. In addition to being able to set a reminder and have a notification when the time comes, you can now also have an alarm on the iPhone go off. This acts just like an alarm in the Clock app, but it's not part of the Clock app at all. It's part of Reminders. The idea here is that if you have a very important thing in Reminders, you can make sure that you don't miss it. It's going to act like an alarm. It's going to keep going until you dismiss it. And it also has other features like snooze. So when you first use Reminders, starting with iOS 26.2, you want to enable it. If you miss that message, you can always go back into Settings and then scroll down to Apps and then go to Reminders and look for the option here to have alarms. Make sure that is turned on. Now, when you go to the Reminders app and go to create a new reminder, I'll do one specifically in this reminders list here. You can create the reminder as normal. I'll just create a test one here. And then you can either click on the calendar button there or the details button there, and you could set a date and time to get a notification about that reminder. But now there's the new feature here, Urgent. If you turn that on, of course, date and time automatically go on. But you can go back to them and change them, like say change the date, or you can change the time. Let me set this one to go off really soon. And then you could add your notes, URL, and other things about this reminder. Now you'll see the reminder set there, and it has this little symbol there showing you that there's an alarm associated with it. You can, of course, go back anytime you want into here and then change the details and turn off urgent there to not have it sound the alarm, but only just do a normal notification. So now with the iPhone locked, maybe sitting on your desk or in your pocket, you will get an alarm that's very much like getting an alarm from the Clock app. It'll look like this. There you go. Notice the distinctive blue color there of the big snooze button to differentiate it between this and an alarm from the Clock app. Now, you can slide here to stop it like you can an alarm in the Clock app, or you can tap snooze to snooze. You'll see that reminder there, snoozed. It's got the snooze timer countdown and a reschedule button as well. But also underneath it, there's a little circle there that you could check to basically complete that item. Here's what happens if we tap the reschedule button there. You can see it takes you right back to a custom view of the date, time, and the urgent switch there for that reminder. If you find these videos valuable, consider joining the more than 2,000 others that support MacMost through Patreon. You get exclusive content, course discounts, and more. You can read about it at macmost.com/Patreon. So I've reset.
Well, any comments or questions? Okay, we'll move on. One miscellany item this week, how to hide an app. Thanks to Tom Wells of Proper Honest Tech for guidance on this item. So if you have an app you want to hide, you locate the app you wish to hide in the app library, which is the rightmost screen on the iPhone, and you long press on the app. tile, which opens a command screen. And you see that command screen on the right. But do notice that it requires that the app allows hidden mode. iOS system apps do not allow that. Step 2, you tap that require face ID in that command screen, and another screen will appear with more options. In this next screen that comes up, you tap hide and require face ID right here. And the app is now hidden. To access your hidden apps, you go to the app library, then scroll to the very bottom and tap hidden. You'll need to unlock it with Face ID before you can use any hidden apps. You can then tap the app to open it. On hiding your hidden apps, you go to the app library, then scroll to the very bottom and tap hidden. You'll need to unlock it with Face ID before you can use any hidden apps. Press versus tap the app to be unhidden. A command screen will appear, and you select Don't Require Face ID. App now shows in the library. App icon can be slid to the screen of your choice. So you can hide it and you can unhide it. On to questions and answers and social hour. Unless there are questions on that. Are we together?
Thank you, Lee.
You can stop your share. Any other questions, comments about any of the videos, or we start a new recording for general Q&A?
Stop share.
Actually, on the video before this, where she was talking about sharing the screen onto the iPad, I did find a feature that is on my wife's MacBook Pro that I now have because of that on the tablet, which is that weird little status bar that Apple put in on some systems and then took away. This
Right.
puts it back, and it puts it on the iPad.
Just showed you that, yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
interesting they did
that
that.
only existed for a couple years in hardware on the
Right,
Pro.
but here it is on the iPad.
Yeah.
So I just verified that. That's all I wanted to say about the video.
Okay, we'll stop this recording. DVMUG members can find the next Q&A on the DVMUG BBS. It will not be public on YouTube, but you can get the link to it if you log into the BBS.